Fire! Although extremely dangerous, setting a fire on purpose, also known as prescribed fire or controlled burn, can actually help your land. While I've been working on my Firelands training, I've learned 3 very important preparations. 1, to be mentally prepared. 2, know your fire weather. And 3, know your fuel types. That's what you're burning. John was gracious enough to include me when he performed his controlled burn this spring. John's preparations were spot on. You will even notice he mowed the fuel around the perimeter of each burn unit. Here's John talking about the day.
Well, what we did today was burned about 5 acres of mix of prairie grass and switchgrass. I had it divided up with burn bricks, and it had there was 4 different actual burn units that we burned. When we did them, we went in and we started back burns on it, burn it back into the wind, and do that for a safety reason, to keep it from doing something you don't want it to do. And from that point on, we would just ease it ahead and just kind of took it easy, took it slow, and it was fairly windy. Let's say it was 10 to 12 mile an hour winds. We were able to get it to do exactly what we wanted to. I'd like the ground to have been a little bit drier because we could have burned it right to the dirt in places, and there's places that are still left some older grass underneath. Well, on the prairie grasses and switch grasses, what happens is they get older, and every year those grasses regrow, and they grow 5 to 6 feet tall. Well, then what happens is after a while they all start falling down. Well, 5 to 6 years of that buildup of regrowing 5 feet of material each year, it starts to build up a thick layer of material underneath. Underneath that, then it makes it so small animals, rabbits, pheasants, and the deer won't use it as much for bedding because it becomes this very thick layer of mat underneath it. Once it's burned off, all those nutrients from all that built up material is converted into ash. Well, that ash will go into the soil. It's almost like a free fertilizer. It helps it all boost back up. And then when the plants regrow, now you'll have little caverns and stuff underneath, and just each plant will build. There'll be highways, if you will, going through that will allow the animals to move freely underneath it and not be stuck in that mat. And that's real important when you get into pheasant chicks and turkey chicks, because they can get lost in that sea of grass. Where if they can move through it freely, it makes it a lot easier for them. And in the native prairies where they grew across this state and most of the Midwestern states, fires would happen. They'd be started by lightning, and this was a natural occurrence. And that's where this really came to be, was because of the natural occurrence of having fires go across the land. And when we started to propagate these prairies on purpose for wildlife cover, that was the one thing we wanted to do, was go back and treat them the way they would have been treated in the wild. That grass, most of that grass we burned today, there were some different sections of it that were different ages, but the oldest piece of that grass is probably 20 years old, and you can see that switchgrass was still 6 feet tall.
Somebody that has never done it before, like I got a question already of, are there services that do it? How much does it cost? You know, like if someone doesn't have any clue about doing it. You're a firefighter by trade, correct? I
am, but that really isn't where I learned how to do this. I learned how to do this and going to the special classes for doing burns. The National Wildland Coordinating Group teaches you how to deal with wildland fire. And the biggest thing with that is you need to learn fire behavior, how weather affects it. and how to burn a large piece of grass. It's not something that most fire departments or firefighters know or have the tools to deal with. The nice thing is I'm friends with these guys from the local fire department, and they wanted to come out and help today, and they really didn't have a lot to do. I did most of the, I lit all the fire myself. I had my burn plan down. That was all my doing. But having them here didn't hurt anything. If somebody wanted to do this, I would just, you can get your local fire department involved, and I would suggest you do that. The biggest thing is to have good burn breaks in, so the fire will stay where you want it to, and know your fire weather and know what is expected that day. That's where the training really comes in, is to know those things. Those are the most important. There are a few other companies that do them, or a few companies that do them, but they're quite expensive actually. So probably your best bet is to have the local department do it, and just make sure that they, or help you with it, if they will, and hopefully they'll have the tools and the knowledge to do it. Most of them will not, but I would definitely have them involved.
Here in Michigan, do you need a permit to do what you did today?
I would say the DNR controls wildland fire, and if they put out a burn ban, it makes it very difficult. You're probably going to want to let your local fire department know, or at least you're going to need to get their permission that you're going to do something like this, because it generates an awful lot of smoke, and people are definitely going to be calling on that. It's not something I would suggest you do on your own without training. It could be extremely dangerous. We had it set up pretty good today with burn breaks, disc lines, wet lines, and it also rained the last 3 days, and this is the first dry day we've had. So that kept it where we wanted it to be, but all of our burn breaks are at least 15 to 20 feet. Don't try this at home. I'm a trained professional.
Don't try this at home. He's right, don't try this at home. Joking aside, fire is no joke, and John executed his burn plan with great success. I want to thank John for allowing me to shadow him. It definitely heightened my goal of completing Firelands training. Please subscribe to the videos. Go to our Facebook page and like it. Go to the website, everything is there. More videos and a blog, which will have more detail about today's controlled burn. I encourage you to get outdoors. Leave it better than you find it. Join the QDMA, or Pheasants Forever, or another organization you're interested in. Until next time, God bless.